Hello dear one, and welcome to this video that's going to speak around the space element in ceremony and also breathwork sessions and expanded states of consciousness. And time. Have you ever noticed that time backwards spells emit? I find this super fascinating as time and space goes hand in hand, and some go as far to say that it is time that creates or emits space. Time is the very prison of existence or experience. Experience can never happen outside of time. It is always and has always had a beginning and an end. So, which might be why we endlessly fall and fail to find ourselves, right? The deeper conscious awareness we are at our core is known as the unborn Buddha mind. Unborn because it's not a thing, and yet it exists. In the upward spiral of knowledge, a broader perspective of our knowledge is revealed. This revelation is facilitated by the utilization of increasingly sophisticated instruments, allowing the measurement of magnetic fields surrounding our heads, courtesy of the minute electrical currents within our brain. Now, these refined instruments enable intrinsic measurements wherein even the slightest perturbation in one system of the body reverberates through all others, dispelling the notion of the body as a mere collection of separate organs, and each isolated and unaffected by the rest. So just as the body's interconnectedness becomes evident, so does the profound interconnection of society, the entire planet, the cosmos, the universe. As we ponder the concept of time, the conventional notion of clock time emerges, orchestrating the synchronization of action worldwide, right? From the schedules of trains and buses and airplanes to the precise navigations of celestial bodies, the pursuit of more accurate communication necessitates an evolution in timekeeping standards, moving away from the mechanical clocks to atomic timepieces, reliant on the stable oscillation of atoms. These clocks continued to divide days into 24 hours, minutes, and seconds, a realm known as objective time. Yet, the perception of time varies in different circumstances, and I'm pretty sure that you have noticed this too. In the midst of engrossing activities where time races by, while in moments of anticipation or anxiety, where it appears that time is slowly crawling, Einstein observed the fluidity of psychological time, where 2 hours with delightful company feels like 1 minute, but a minute of scorching pain feels like 2 hours. And this is the concept of subjective time. Subjective time is our experience of time. Now, psychedelics or breath work, meditation. There are so many different ways that we can experience altered or expanded states of consciousness. And through this, we have a direct experience into this matter, into objective time staying exactly the same, yet our subjective time completely alters. And as they appear to alter the very fabric of time, this perception of the construct of time is through our psyche. How then can we harness subjective time to our advantage? So sleep studies have unveiled the phenomena of time dilation during dreaming, wherein brief dream episodes yields lengthy narratives, right? Similarly, hypnosis and certain psychedelic substances such as ayahuasca, LSD, psilocybin, cannabis manifest in time dilation. Under their influence, reports suggest that speakers articulate their words at a sluggish pace marked by extended pauses, even though the pitch and the tone of their voices remains unchanged. This discrepancy implies an expansion of subjective time with objective time remaining constant, affording a more intricate examination of the act of speech. Do our mental processes accelerate in relation to the speakers? Or do they simply possess more time to scrutinize the event? In rare instances, individuals trained to enter deep theta states and observe a clock may witness the second hand on the clock momentarily freezing. The initial reaction of this might shock you so much that you're prompted to return to ordinary time. However, to those who maintain the deep meditative theta state without direct focus being lost or being placed on anything else, just pure being, you might find that that hand on the clock remains motionless. So upon the attempt of control of conscious states, that is the pure experience of objective time remaining the same, but your subjective time is stretched out a lot. It is very important to notice that this phenomena does not alter the actual movement of the clock itself. The clock itself, which continues to measure time in its customary fashion, is still clicking 1 second at a time. Instead, it extends the subjective experience of time, analogious to the relativistic theory revelation that two observers in a relative motion will occur on the rate of their respective clocks. The common thread amongst all these scenarios in the presence of altered states of consciousness is it is postulated that the observing mind, the awareness that correlates and also interprets information provided by the brain, may temporarily vacate the body, and this occurrence is akin to daydreaming. This is where the sensory organs and the brain continues to process information while the observer is temporarily diverts its attention elsewhere, potentially into the fourth dimensional plane of linear time, into the past or into the future. Again, I did discuss the three-dimensional, you as a three-dimensional being in another video. I think it was in my depression videos. I'll link the video here. But in one hypothetical scenario, the absent observer might visit some mountains or a beach somewhere. Such an astray observer could conceivably be sensed by a clairvoyant under specific circumstances, while the observer is engrossed in processing mountain-related information or beach-related information. The input form from the physical eyes goes unattended. From the moment the watch stops until it restarts, the observer resides beyond the body. In cases where the watch merely slows down, the observer remains partially tethered to the body and partially processing information at a reduced pace from this body and also at a reduced pace outside of the body. So when the watch stops completely, the eyes act as cameras, capturing the last visual input before the observer's departure. And this resembles a calculator screen displaying the most recent data entered. So analogously, when a pendulum reaches an extreme position, there is a region where the connection between time and space becomes uncertain, leading to an infinite or a near infinite velocities, owing to the quantum uncertainty principle. Our bodies exhibits pendulum-like behavior, as explained in previous videos, suggesting that the observer, devoid of physical mass, may transfer high velocities during the body's oscillations. Now, in such cases, the observer's destination remains a mystery. Could this potentially explain the phenomena of people on ketamine visiting places on other planets or places elsewhere on this globe, or even places outside of this universe? Does it add a potential pointer to what is occurring when blasting off on a 5-MeO-DMT journey, experiencing different places, and yet you're here, and in such a short time it feels like you're experiencing lifetimes of trauma or trauma healing, or experiencing different lifetimes altogether? So this diagram portrays 4-dimensional time with vertical repressing time and horizontal devoting space. The upward movement signifies the passage of time, time into the future, while the past resides beneath the line. The intersection of the vertical and horizontal lines marks the present moment, the starting point for absolutely any event. So for a photon, the speed of light particles and their journey on this diagram unfolds rapidly. As light travels approximately 300,000 kilometers per second. The vertical line marks seconds, and the horizontal line denotes distance. So these points are connected, forming a diagonal line that extends into the past and into the future, illustrating the mini now moments as the present point advances into the future. The fastest motion in this physical realm is constrained by the speed of light, defying the concept of time-like. Still with me? Nevertheless, research delves into hypothetical particles called tachyons, capable of suppressing or surpassing the speed of light. Tachyons exhibit behavior labeled as space-like, as they traverse space with minimal temporal consumption. When an entity moves so swiftly that time scarcely elapses during its journey, it appears nearly omnipresent, meaning that it is everywhere at once. Imagine a vehicle capable of light speed traveling in a circular motion around the globe 7 times in 1 second, creating a shell of presence around Earth. If this vehicle could approach nearly infinite speeds, it could explore the universe in a heartbeat, effectively achieving omnipresence everywhere. So let me just quickly summarize. In summary, the interplay between subjective and objective time, the mysteries of altered states of consciousness, and the intriguing nature of tachyons leads us to ponder the fascinating relationship between time and perception in our universe. Once we have acclimated to the marvel of omnipresence, our thirst for knowledge propels us further. The fast-paced journey, however, leaves us desiring to explore our solar system, and then maybe to bridge this gap, we conceive a lightning-fast mental computer conjured swiftly and unexpectedly in the theater of our mind. We absorb the cosmos within as it flows into us, evolving from omnipresence to omniscience. And this transformation, we spread ourselves across the solar system in shimmering, vibrating halo, all-seeing, all-knowing. Because at infinite speeds, we turn to a common place and we delve inward, contemplating our state. Surprisingly, going so fast equates to us being at rest in all spaces simultaneously at all times. This paradox urges us to expand our consciousness, allowing our observing mind to encompass all of existence. So consequently, we no longer need to race at enormous amounts of speeds. Instead, we can comprehend that achieving such velocities corresponds to reaching elevated states of tranquility and just in the stillness of being. And the circle closes here. Also, allow me to circle back to the zero-dimensional point and the sphere, as I mentioned in a previous video. Now, once either of them vanishes, both of them will vanish, taking with them location, comparison, and duality. This could be understood that everything is everywhere, and that there is no more center, or that there is no more context of what speed is because there is no comparison. Space and time remain objective as we understand them, but alongside there exist dotted lines of subjective coordinates symbolizing subjective time and space. In our usual waking state, these two systems run parallel, and sometimes, just sometimes, they overlap. Pulsating and pulsing every 90 minutes or so. However, during altered or expanded states of consciousness, the subjective coordinates disengage from the objective coordinates and orbit around a shared center. So let's pivot these subjective coordinates at an arbitrary angle, which we will call psi. A line parallel to the space axis is drawn through 1 second mark, symbolizing the projection of an objective second onto the subjective line. We discover the interactions of subjective time, named subjective. By measuring the diagonal line, length from now to the intersection, we observe that the subjective time unit surpasses its objective counterpart. So in essence, it appears that we have more time to engage with life's tapestry in our diagram. We possess 4 subjective seconds for every 1 objective second. Isn't that pretty amazing? So this concept can be understood through a simple analogy. Imagine a pole with knots, and you thrust that pole into the earth at a 90-degree angle. When the sun casts a low-angle shadow, the pole's elongated shadow allows us to scrutinize the knots, and the spaces between them can be seen in more detail. So it will look like the pole is much longer. Yet, it does not imply that our mental processes grows shifter or sharper. Rather, any increase in the psi angle extends subjective time. So as the subjective time axis leans closer to the horizontal, we might realize that we have, figuratively speaking, 1,000,000 subjective seconds within every single objective second. Have you ever heard people say that one ayahuasca ceremony unpacked 10 years of therapy? When we look at an objective versus subjective time and how altered states of consciousness tilts the subjective time on that axis, then it becomes clear, or I should say it becomes clear to me, how one can feel like you have worked through a lifetime of trauma and healing in just a couple of hours. On the other side of the spectrum, I have had personal experience and also a lot of clients tell me that a breathwork session that was longer than an hour felt like just a few minutes. So we can play with time. Time is this spectrum, this contrasted illusion, if you want to take it there. So whether time exists or is just a construct of the projected outward to allow for logical sense, it sure is fascinating to look at this and to contemplate this. I hope that you enjoyed this video around time and space. Please leave in the comments if you have any questions, or if you want to know anything more than what I discussed. Your comments, your opinions are always welcome here. And thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence. Until the next time.